Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking on something pretty big, a goal for a lot of network engineers, the CCIE Service Provider certification.
Yeah, it's definitely a major step up.
Right. So if you've already worked through your CCNA, maybe your CCNP, and you're looking at that next expert level, well, this deep dive is for you.
Absolutely. What we want to do today is basically break down that whole CCIE service provider path, make it, actionable. We've looked at how people approach this, and the aim is to give you a clear map, take you from maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed to seeing the actual steps forward.
Exactly. So maybe you're just sort of thinking about the CCIE, wondering what it takes, or maybe you're already studying knee-deep in it and just need a bit more clarity.
Either way, you're in the right place.
Yeah.
Okay?
We'll keep it pretty accessible, but definitely practical.
Okay, let's get into it. Step one.
Okay, step one, and this is, well, it's absolutely fundamental. You have to have a rock-solid networking foundation before you even seriously think about the CCIE service provider.
Right, you can't just jump in. No way. It's like trying to build, I don't know, a huge building on shaky ground. It just won't work.
And when we say core networking,
Yeah.
we're talking specifics, right? Things like BGP, OSPF, ISIS is a big one in SP, MPLS, QoS.
Definitely. Those are the big pillars. And look, if you've done the CCNP service provider, you've seen these, you've configured them.
Sure.
But, and this is the key difference, the CCIE demands a much deeper understanding. It's way beyond just knowing the commands.
So it's not just router off one.
No, not even close. It's about grasping the mechanics underneath, why things work the way they do.
The nitty-gritty.
Exactly. Like understanding BGP path selection down to the attribute level, not just seeing if a neighbor is up, or knowing how MPLS actually forwards packets based on labels, how VPNs leverage that deeper insight. That's what lets you troubleshoot the really complex stuff you see in big networks.
Okay, so let's make this practical for the listener. Ask yourself honestly, can you troubleshoot a BGP peering that's flapping, or just won't come up for some obscure reason?
Yeah, or do you really get how MPLS labels get passed around and used? Like for VPNs or traffic engineering.
If you're hesitating, thinking, maybe, or sort of,
Then that's your sign. That's where you need to focus first, seriously.
it's not about making anyone feel bad, it's just realistic.
Totally. Trying to skip this foundation step, thinking you'll catch up later, it usually just makes things harder down the road. Build that base first. It's honestly the best time investment you can make right at the start.
Okay, got it. Foundation first. So assuming that's solid, or we're working on it, what's the next kind of formal hurdle?
Right. The next big milestone is the core exam, the written one. It's officially the 350-501 SPCOR.
SPCO, okay.
And you have to pass this one. It's like a gatekeeper. You can't even book your lab exam until you've cleared the SPCOR.
Ah, okay. Mandatory step.
Yeah.
So what's actually in this SPCOR exam? What ground does it cover?
It's pretty broad, actually. Covers a lot of service provider tech, obviously deep dives into routing protocols, BGP, OSPF, ISIS again. But also quality of service, various VPN services, layer 2, layer 3 VPNs, multicast is in there too, and increasingly important network automation concepts.
Automation, right? Seems like that's everywhere now.
It really is. So quite a bit to cover.
Yeah, sounds like it. So how do you even start studying for something that wide-ranging? Where's the starting point?
Your absolute best friend here is the official exam blueprint from Cisco.
With the blueprint. Okay.
Treat that like your map. It lists out all the topics, all the subtopics they can test you on. Seriously, stick to that blueprint. Then you build around it.
How so?
Use different resources. Video courses are great for seeing things visually. Books, obviously, for the really deep theory. And practice questions are crucial.
Practice questions, like constantly.
Pretty much. They help you see where you're strong, where you're weak, and just get used to the question formats. Combine the blueprint, videos, books, practice questions. That's a solid approach.
Okay, blueprint is the guide. Use various resources. Makes sense. But how do you make sure all that theory actually sticks? Like turns into real skill?
Yeah. The absolute key. Hands-on practice. You hear lab what you learn all the time for a reason.
Right.
As soon as you study a concept, like really study it, get in a lab and configure it, see it work, then break it.
Break it. Intentionally.
Yeah. See what happens when it fails. Then figure out how to fix it. That troubleshooting loop is invaluable.
Can you give an example, like how that works in practice?
Yeah. Let's say segment routing. You spend a day reading about the architecture, how the sRGB works, maybe TI, LFA for protection.
Okay.
The very next day, you should be in your lab. Build a small topology, maybe just 2 or 3 virtual routers. Configure basic segment routing. verify the labels, ping across it using the segment path.
So immediately applying it.
Immediately. It cements the knowledge way better than just reading. Plus, you start building that muscle memory, that speed for configuration and troubleshooting. That's gold for the real lab exam. You know, segment routing, it's kind of like pre-programming the path right into the packet header, avoids lookups, gives you more control. It's powerful stuff.
And speaking of labs, the CCIE lab is famously all hands-on, right?
Yeah.
So building that practical skill is, well, everything.
You are absolutely spot on. Theory alone, it gets you nowhere near passing the CCIE lab. You'll be facing real gear or virtual gear, needing to fix live problems, build complex configs, all with the clock ticking.
Fresh.
Loads of it. Which is exactly why setting up and using a practice lab environment isn't just recommended, it's non-negotiable, really.
Okay, but labs. Doesn't that mean needing a room full of expensive routers and switches? I think that puts a lot of people off.
Well, that's the good news. Not anymore. That image of a massive physical rack, that's pretty much outdated for home study.
Really? So what's the alternative?
Network virtualization platforms. They're incredibly powerful now. Things like EVENG, Cisco's own VRLO, now CML, Cisco Modeling Labs, or GNS3.
EVENG, CM, GNS3. Okay.
Yeah, these let you run router and switch operating systems as virtual machines on your computer. You can build really complex topologies without needing any physical hardware beyond a decent PC or server. It's way more cost effective.
That must be a huge relief for a lot of people studying. Okay, so you get one of these platforms set up. Where do you start building your virtual world? You don't just build a mini internet on day one.
No, definitely not. Start small, build progressively. Maybe your first goal is just getting basic BGP peering working between 2 or 3 virtual routers. Get comfortable with that.
Okay, basics first.
Then layer on the next technology. Add MPLS. Get LDP running. Then maybe try setting up a simple layer 3 VPN between a couple of sites.
To build it up piece by piece.
Exactly. Add complexity incrementally, matching your understanding as it grows.
And the end goal for this lab is?
Ultimately, you want a virtual environment where you can simulate pretty realistic service provider scenarios.
Like what kind of scenario?
Oh, things like multiple VRFs for customer separation, complex QoS policies to prioritize voice or video traffic, maybe connecting different BGP autonomous systems with VPNs running over them, stuff like that.
Wow, okay. That sounds involved.
It is. And look, getting your lab skills to that level, it takes time, consistent effort, lots of hours. But every hour you invest there builds confidence for the real exam. It's probably the most critical investment you'll make.
Makes total sense. Okay, so we've got the foundation. We passed SPCR. We're building our lab skills. But the CCIE is still this massive undertaking. How do you keep making progress? How do you not just get lost in all the material?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge. And it brings us to the next really vital piece, having a structured plan.
A plan, okay.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of people who struggle with the CCIE, it's often not because they aren't smart enough. It's because they didn't have a solid plan. They just kind of studied stuff randomly.
Winging it doesn't work for the CCIE, huh?
Not really, no. The best way to think about it is like managing a project. Your CCIE certification is the project. You need goals, timelines, deliverables.
Treating it like a formal project. I like that. How would that actually look, day to day, week to week?
Well, you start with the blueprint again. Break it down into smaller, manageable topics like individual technologies or protocols.
Okay.
Then you assign time to them. Maybe say, this week I'm focusing only on IS level 1 and level 2 areas. Or next week is all about MPLS traffic engineering basics. Create a schedule.
A schedule.
Yeah.
Not just studying when you feel like it.
Exactly. That's the discipline part. You need to schedule both your theory study time and your lab practice time. Make it a regular commitment. Even if it's just an hour or two some days, consistency beats cramming.
Okay, so schedule it in. What else?
Track your progress. This is key. Set actual measurable milestones. Don't just say, I'll learn routing this month.
And more specific.
Much more specific, like, by the end of week 6, I will have studied and labbed up all the main OSPF features and I feel confident configuring and troubleshooting them. Or, by week 10, I aim to complete my first full 8-hour practice lab simulation.
Setting concrete goals like that. Yeah, I can see how that would make it feel less like this giant, endless thing.
Precisely. It breaks it down, makes it manageable. And honestly, it relies more on discipline, following the plan, than just waiting for motivation to strike.
Because motivation comes and goes, right?
Totally unpredictable. Discipline, driven by that structured plan, that's what gets you through the long haul of CCIE prep. The plan gives you the framework to be disciplined.
Okay, this is great. So foundation, check. SPCOR, done. Lab environment, humming along. study plan in place and being executed. We're getting close. What's the sort of final stage of prep before walking into the actual lab exam?
Right, the final phase. And you could argue this is the most critical part of the preparation, simulating the real thing.
Simulating the CCIE lab itself.
Exactly. You need to recreate the conditions, the pressure, the types of tasks as closely as possible to the actual 8-hour exam.
Okay, for anyone listening who hasn't maybe looked that far ahead, what does that 8-hour lab exam typically look like? What's the format?
It's a long day. Usually it's broken into modules. There might be a design module first.
Designing a solution.
Yeah, where they give you requirements, maybe a high-level diagram, and you have to design how you'd build it, justify your choices, maybe answer some questions. Then comes deploying it.
Building it.
Right. Taking your design or a given design and actually configuring it on the equipment, getting it all working, and then often there's a troubleshooting module.
Finding and fixing problems.
Exactly. They'll present you with a pre-configured network that's broken in various ways, and you have to diagnose and fix the issues. All of this under pretty tight time limits for each section.
Wow. Design, deploy, troubleshoot, under the gun. So how do we simulate that effectively at home?
You need to find or create realistic mock lab scenarios, ones that cover the breadth of the blueprint, just like the real exam. There are training vendors who offer these, or you can try building your own based on the blueprint topics.
Okay, find good practice labs. What else?
Time them. Seriously, run them under strict time conditions. Use a timer. Feel that pressure.
Don't just casually work through it.
No. The timing is crucial for building pressure tolerance and forcing you to work efficiently. It's about time management as much as technical skill.
It's like training for a marathon,
Yeah.
right? You don't just jog occasionally. You do long runs under race-like conditions.
That's a perfect analogy. And as you get more comfortable, you need to progress to doing full 8-hour mock labs.
The whole 8 hours in one go.
Yes. Maybe start doing them bi-weekly, then weekly as you get closer to your exam date. This does a few things. It tests your technical knowledge across the board, under fatigue.
Endurance is key.
Definitely. It trains your accuracy when you're tired. It forces you to refine your troubleshooting process so it's fast and effective. And it builds the sheer configuration speed you need to finish everything in time. These full simulations are where everything you've learned comes together.
Okay, that paints a really clear picture of the final push. So let's just quickly recap this whole journey we've mapped out for the CCIE Service Provider.
So good.
First, you absolutely need that solid core networking foundation. BGP, OSPF, ISIS, MPLS, QoS. Got to know them deep.
Foundational.
Yep. Second, conquer the SPCOR core exam. Pass that written test before you can even book the lab.
Mandatory checkpoint.
Third, set up and consistently use a practice lab. Virtual labs like EVE-NG, CML, GNS3 make this accessible. Get hands-on.
Crucial for practical skills.
Fourth, treat it like a project. Implement a structured study plan based on the blueprint with clear milestones and a regular schedule.
Plan your work, work your plan. Discipline over motivation.
And fifth, the final stage. Simulate the real lab. Use timed, full-length mock exams to build endurance, speed, and pressure tolerance.
Practice like you'll play. That's the essence.
So those are the 5 big steps.
That covers the core strategy, absolutely. And look, let's be honest, the CCIE path, it is challenging. It takes real dedication, a lot of hours.
No doubt about it.
But, and this is important, it is achievable, especially if you follow a structured approach like we've discussed. It's not magic, it's methodical preparation.
And the payoff is pretty significant, right? Getting that CCIE number.
Oh, huge. It's recognized globally. It really does signify that you've reached an elite level of expertise in service provider networking. It opens doors.
A validation of all that effort.
Without question. It's a career milestone for sure.
Well, hopefully this deep dive has been useful for you listening. If it has, maybe share it with others you know who are aiming for their CCIE.
Yeah, spread the knowledge.
And if you hit roadblocks or have questions as you go through your own prep, feel free to reach out. There's a big community out there.
Definitely. Don't struggle alone. Remember, keep focused, stay persistent, put in that consistent work, follow your plan.
And that CCIE certification, it can definitely be yours.
Absolutely. Go